No, yeah. The other one, you need to use an app for it, and I found the app was, causing a lag between my voice and the image. So I hope you guys can see me and pop on over here. In the meantime, I'll try to draw up that screen and put a note underneath it. Um, so I'm just gonna pause here. Let's see now, YouTube. Find my own stream, find my own place, channel, and then, mm. And I'm live now. Look on my channel. YouTube. It's tricky. I just didn't care for having my voice, particularly when I look back at the videos and the voice and mm, the voice and the image were separate. So my lips were moving and no sound was coming out, or no sound was coming. My lips weren't moving yet. That was even worse. So, oh, good. We got somebody rounded up and found me over here. All right. Sorry for the mix-up. Still playing around. It's been 14 weeks, and I need to move to a new app to run these things. But in the meantime, I'm just doing YouTube the only way I can do it through them, which is without a pre-existing scheduled title and so forth. It's confusing. So, phew. So here we are. It's for those who are watching later, it's Monday, March 16th, and the county that I'm in just declared that we're all supposed to shelter in place tonight, starting at midnight. And I'd already been sheltering in place, fortunately, because I'm an old, retired RN, nurse practitioner, public health nurse, and I could see this coming, and I'm 61, so if I can avoid it, I'd like to, although I think I could probably weather it, the COVID virus, if I had to. So my topic today, it's interesting how these things align. If you've been following along with me, you know that I've been going through an old manual for how to step-by-step approach to meditation and Buddhism, mostly the Buddhism part, and by Patrul Rinpoche, a cranky old monk who was very, very wise, but totally uncensored, and he's very, blunt. And so I've been trying to, and also very 19th century Tibet. So I've been trying to bring it home for us. And, like last week, we were just finishing up impermanence and sure shooting the COVID virus, was just becoming obvious that it was a major threat. And then this week we have, hey, hi to number 3 who's coming on. So this week I'm supposed to start talking about cyclic existence, this topic that's unfamiliar to people who are new to Buddhism. I apologize if it's a foreign term. It's called samsara in Sanskrit. And the title of the chapter that I'm was diving into to present, is along with our meditation sessions, was what do they call it? The defects of cyclic existence. And what does that mean? Well, it means exactly this, that suddenly You think I've done everything in my life to create a stable situation for myself, right? We've all done everything possible. Maybe it's worked, maybe it hasn't, to try to get to happiness and stability and a safe situation for ourselves at minimum, right? And then on top of that, we want money, we want sex, we want fame. And what else do we want? You may have some individual thing, but usually those are the main ones, I guess. And uh, then seemingly overnight, the stock market has crashed. That's where all my money is, except for this house and some a little bit someplace else. So I haven't even looked at it because I don't have any reason to know. No, doesn't going to do any good to pay attention to that because I can't do anything about it. And then, what else has happened? Many people have gotten ill, but more so, much more suffering is due to many people being afraid of being ill. Am I right? And then so much suffering from suddenly, like here, and it's not maybe not be in your neighborhood yet, but here in California, people, this complete work life has been thrown up in the air, and now we're just supposed to stay inside our house, or of course we can walk around, get fresh air, but not get in our car and go anywhere unless it's absolutely necessary, not to mix with other people. So we can't even, those who aren't married like myself can't even get a hug. Am I right? So there's actually a name for that. There's a word, I don't know what the word is, or there's a phrase like about one of the three fundamental kinds of suffering of human beings is like suddenly happiness suddenly changed into suffering. And the other main one is suffering. You're already suffering, and then things get worse. So you may be in that situation where you were already sick, and then this comes up. Well, in my house, I'm already fighting mice coming in all the time lately. I don't know where they're coming in, cleaning out drawers of mouse, what, and all this, and ants are coming in, and that's not really serious suffering, but it's an arduous, and then this, now I have to stay in my house. So a couple days ago, I just thought, well, if I'm going to stay in my house, it's my habit. I'm going to do retreat because that's what I do. Lori's messaging me. Does that mean? Yeah, she's one of the people who usually attends this is messaging me. She says 4 people are waiting. And they don't know where to find me. Okay, so I think maybe she can alert them somehow. I wrote a note under there, but that message didn't get through. So they'll be joining us momentarily. Hey, somebody, you figured it out, Lori, probably. Okay, so I decided to go into retreat because that's what I do. And what was interesting, sort of synchronicity with that was that I thought I'd call Lama Sutra Malioni just to see how she was doing. Some of you may know her, and I had the secret cell phone number. And I call, and instead of lighting up like an iPhone, which she has, the blue, it lit up I messaged her, and I get this message back in green, like from a non-iPhone, right? And it says, "Who the F is this?" Wow, she's crappy today. But it wasn't her. Somehow either lines got crossed, whatever. I ended up with, it was the same number. And this guy claims he's had it forever. Maybe he stole it from her cell phone. I'll have to check with her about that eventually. But I met some guy named Jonathan who was in Colorado. And I'm sort of pausing here where everybody comes over. Hopefully they see the note below. Nothing much I can do. they, I'm looking at the numbers going up and down, thinking, oh, somebody's went over to try to find them on the other stream, Oh, well. Really, I can't access the chats or anything on that one. The only way I can go live directly on YouTube is, new stream. So right now at the moment. So anyway, Jonathan and I ended up having a long exchange on, texting back and forth, and he was really, really bored. He was at a ski resort with his family, and he thought that we sounded like we were having much more fun, me and Lama Sutra, the meditators and so forth, and than he was, because he was bored to tears. So that's that's a different kind of mind, isn't it? The mind that says, I have nothing to do, so I'm bored to death, I'm going stir crazy and all that. Then the Dharma practitioner's mind goes, oh my gosh, my whole life just cleared out. I was going through clicking out my, iCal. Oh, that's canceled, that's canceled, that's canceled. There's nothing on there except for this one thing on Monday. So hell, maybe I can really get free of samsara. It doesn't mean, so getting free of samsara doesn't mean dying. But and ultimately it means enlightenment, and I can't describe that because I'm not there, but on the gradual path level it means, thank you for number 5, you caught here, great, we'll talk. I'm saving the discussion about the details of retreat until everybody finds me here. But gradually we turn our minds, we're reversing it, it's like the whole society is going in one way. This was my friend Lama Dawa, who lives in Florida, just was putting it this way, like everybody in the world is swimming down the river that way, towards the waterfall. Really, I'd add that part in. And you're the only one, and maybe in your whole family and your whole social set, that's swimming up this way and saying, no, my goal isn't to get famous. It isn't get rich. It isn't get to have continual, unrelenting sex with gorgeous babes all the time. It isn't, those things are not going to, I know that those things are not going to bring me happiness, because even when you're set with all those things, like some kind of Hollywood movie star, it can flip in an instance. And we've seen many famous people, Tom Hanks, who was a wonderful person, and very, in that situation where he could have whatever he wanted, is, the sought for life. And he has coronavirus. I assume he'll be okay. He looks like a strong guy, but it goes everywhere. It affects everyone, as does death itself, right? So Dharma practitioners, I really rejoiced yesterday. I was on a conference call. We were doing practice together with a group of practitioners of a Buddhist practice called the Vajrakalaya from Tibet. And at the end, they were going, oh, we'll see you next week. We'll see you whatever. And I said, well, if we all die, we'll see you in Zondok Palri. It's like that our name for Guru Rinpoche's Pure Land, or, it's like, and they all laughed. Instead of you'll have these exchanges. I've had many of them during this period where I'll say, well, if I don't die, I'll see you such and such. And they'll go, oh, don't be so gloomy. Think positive, Well, it's not going to help. How you think about it is not going to change the fact that we all die, right? So what we can do is create a really wonderful mind stream. If you believe in the continuity after passing, that goes. That's what goes forward. And that's the only thing. You aren't going to carry this body with you, as they often say. It's just on loan for a while, right? So that's my pep talk for it's very, Dharma teachers who make their living at it don't really talk about this stuff or samsara very much, as far as I know. So, okay. So here's what I've done, and I recommend it. Now, each of you, you can jump on the live chat and tell me, I'll do a little bit and then we'll take a pause and we'll meditate. But you can jump on and tell me, whether you're a Vajrayana practitioner, a Mahayana practitioner, Theravada practitioner, and that'll helped me see, how to gear things and sort of in terms of retreat ideas. But the first thing you want to do, I think, is after you set up your living situation, which we're all set up for retreat now, right? And most of us in the affected areas, have stockpiled to the ability we can of hopefully not huge amounts that would be to the detriment of other people who need food and toilet paper just as much as we do, but enough for us to get through a period of time. And then, that's just how you prepare for a retreat. I have a rack in the basement, a big rack, and that's when I've done year-long retreat, I stacked it up with 6 months of stuff at a time and going to Costco and all that, and that's exactly what you're doing, what people have done, right? So that should be all taken care of. But then next you need to clean your space and your personal space. Anything that's going to really distract you because it's left that needs to be dealt with in the next period of time, let's say a couple of weeks, depending on how long you want to make your retreat, deal with it and just jump in for a couple of days. And while you're cleaning, think about what do you want to, what kind of meditation do you want to do? What practice do you want to focus on? And there's a lot of, you could focus on shamatha like we've been teaching. You can go back through these videos and learn how to do calming meditation, and that would be beautiful. You can focus on Tonglen. We've touched on that, the sending and taking practice. Those are suitable for everyone. Or whatever your practice is. And if you're a Vajrayana practitioner, we tend to do, a lot of us tend to do sadhanas practice, which is called, there's a process of doing retreat called approach, accomplishment, and activity. And then with those practices, they're very specific instructions. You should be doing them unless you've done it before under the guidance of a lama and you know your way around it. You should be, there's manuals and oral instructions and so forth for doing those. And generally they require, unless you've done a lot of retreat in your past and you no longer need that, very strict boundary and very strict rules where you can't check your internet and, talk to anybody outside of your boundary. And you put a sign up at your door saying this is a retreat boundary, stay away, and no food comes through that door, strangers don't come through that door. That kind of thing is probably unsuitable to this epidemic because the situations are changing all the time, right? We might have to go to the hospital. Yeah, anything can happen. Yay, impermanence. This is what we've been training for, right? There's an aspect when you're a serious Dharma practitioner, and I don't know who's on here today besides Lori, but you're a serious Dharma practitioner, Lori. This is what we've been training for impermanence and death. Like we're the experts in impermanence and in coping with impermanence and death. And not that everybody has to deal with them, right? But we're the ones who specialize in training in accepting impermanence and death. So there's a part that's like, if I know I'm going to die in an hour, okay, this is it. This is my moment to shine, I'm not expecting to die. So then, so you think about, there's some directions you could go in. You could do your usual practice, which is probably good. Hey, heart. And, that's, how to do it. You've got everything there you need for it. You're all set. You could do the practices I just mentioned, but also there's specialty practices. There's sort of two sets of practices people are recommending for the epidemic itself in the Vajrayana school. And if there's any Vajrayana practitioners here, I'm just going to mention that some are focusing on practices for nurturing the disturbances, the beings that have been disturbed in the environment by climate change, environmental destruction, so forth. And then, hey, Rob, and the diseases have come forth from these very places, probably from animals, forest animals that were eaten, and then I don't know. We'll find out about the specific disease, but a lot of it seems to be related to the environment. From the traditional Tibetan point of view, it certainly is. So if you want to sort of go straight in and kind of nurture those beings so that they are sort of get to the root of things, you can practice. Like last year, if you were hanging around with me, we went through Chit, Sur, Chutor, the water torma, and the Riwa Sanction, our song in general. And so song is the easiest to do, and Riwa Sanction, if you have that practice, is really good to do at this time. Then if you want to take care of yourself and protect yourself, there's practices that are supposed to protect you, such as longevity promoting practices like Amitayus and White Tara, to disease prevention and alleviation practices, and that's Tara. All the Taras are involved in that. So the 21 Taras, and this Dorje Gotrab, which is Vajra armor, kind of protects you. It's sort of the Hail Mary practice among Nyingmapas and many schools of Buddhism. There's slight differences between versions of it, whichever one you've received, to protect you from disease. So there's many of this kind of approach. Personally, I went a different direction with it. I thought, well, if this is it, to think we've been training right here, right? In this thinking, this is it. I could die at any moment. What do I want to do? I want to practice for enlightenment, So I'm focusing on my own practices for enlightenment, my own special deity that has been recommended to me, and my Dzogchen practice. If you have that, it's beautiful. So, and all those things, and Lindro, Lori, and Rob, Lindro's perfect for right now because it doesn't require a boundary. You can do it however many sessions a day you want to do it. But what I do recommend is that by the end of your cleaning days, for taking 1 or 2 days to get organized and get clean, and you've thought up exactly what you want to do, make a schedule for yourself and write it down. And because you'll find out when you write it down, there's a problem. Like, oh, if I do that, then I won't be able to feed the cats, and the cats will be all over me. So this is traditional to make your session times. And short sessions in the Tibetan system, 8 hours a day of practice would be a short day of practice. So but if you haven't ever done 8 hours a day of practice, maybe that's too much to start with. It's up to you. You can try. But I would say go a little bit less than you think you can do. If you think, oh, I could do 3 hours, 4 3-hour sessions a day. I'm young and fit and stuff like that. I'm just going to go for it. You might want to commit yourself to 4 2-hour sessions a day. And then you've got wiggle room. If you want to run over, nobody's going to stop you. But you haven't broken a commitment to yourself. Okay? So, in the Tibetan system, a typical retreat schedule is to do 4 sessions and 1 early in the morning. Gosh, the Kagyapas in their 3 retreats, they get up at like 3 a.m. in the morning. Yeah, we're not going to do that, are we? So say start 6:30 to 8:30. I wrote down a sample schedule here. 6:30 to 8:30, 10 to 12. And 3 to 5, and maybe 7 to 9. That's a gentle schedule. And otherwise, you could shorten that to an hour if you're not used to practicing for any length of time. And if you're old, it's good to get up once an hour, and you're not doing if you're not doing prostrations. Our brains become our memory centers get diminished in our brains if we don't stand for like at least 5 minutes once an hour. So maybe since you're practicing on your own, not in the middle of a shrine room, get up once, maybe walk around the house and come back, without getting distracted. And speaking of distraction, you need to decide during during your cleaning period, pre-retreat period, how much social media you want to engage in, and how much news you want to engage in. Right now, I think we all agree, wouldn't we, that watching watching our internet news sources and opinion sources all day long is not healthy, right? It's not helping. It's not doing anything for the, for the actual epidemic, right? So we want to cool it a bit, and there's apps you can use, depending, like whether you're on a cell phone or a computer, to block the internet for a period of time. So during these days when you're getting ready to start your retreat, I recommend starting to block then for periods of time, and pull out those books that you always wanted to read, but not that you won't get obsessed about. Typically, you don't read in retreat, but it's going to be hard when we're detoxing from internet and reading habit all the time as Americans to do that, to go cold turkey with any sort of this, right? So you might want to wean yourself off with books. But I'm not saying my recommendation is not going full on closed and not tracking what's going on at all. I think we should know what's going on, but you can find that out in 5 minutes, can't you? So, or you can have them, if you feel like you really want to know more and be more involved in social media and so forth, put it right in your schedule that you're going to, during your lunch break, for example, which is typically your longest, you're going to spend 2 hours going crazy on the internet, and then you're going to shut it down. So you make your own decisions, but then write it down and commit yourself to it. And usually you commit to a period of time. Until a few hours ago, we didn't know the period of time, right? Because, we didn't know how long the virus is going to be around. Probably looking like months, right? But right now, in our California, right? Good. Lori's saying she's working remotely, but she'll have more free time because there's no commute anymore, right? And I'm sure maybe, Rob, you're in that situation also. So you could set just a practice period each day that you want to do. You could do 2 full hours or something like that, as opposed to your usual thing. And so, oh yeah, so we just got notification that we're we're shelter in place here in Alameda County and San Francisco and so forth. So we aren't supposed to be going out. I mean, obviously we can go to walk around the neighborhood, and that's good. So, and they're putting, I think, through April. Does anybody remember? I read all that, but I don't remember. Lori, maybe you remember. Shelter in place through sometime in April. And so that's 2 weeks. So I think you can safely make a 2-week schedule. April 7th. Jeez, this is like a miracle for Dharma practitioners. Really, if you've been smart and taken care of your exposure, this is great. Think of the headway you guys can make on your commitments to yourself. So anyway, here's the schedule. I'm just putting out there as a typical 2-hour thing: 6:30 to 8:30, 10 to 12, 3 to 5, 7 to 10, 7 to 9. Yeah, I said that already. So the afternoon, late afternoon, I mean, the afternoon after lunch, right after lunch, is kind of because you feel weighed down by your food and so forth. You don't typically practice between noon and 3. So that's your long break for getting things done, or dishes and so forth. Things take a lot longer than you'd think, but still, yeah. So just make a commitment to yourself, and then on the first, it's good to start in the evening if you can on the first day. If you're doing a round-the-clock retreat, if you're doing a semi-retreat, for you people who are working remotely, that's one thing. But if you're doing a round-the-clock retreat, start with a nice. If you're a Vajrayana practitioner, do a soak on the first night, evening, and start with that. If you're any other kind of Dharma practitioner, set up space the way you like it. If you like having a shrine, set up a traditional shrine during your cleaning period beforehand. Have it all set up and beautiful by the time you start. And then sit down like with a lot of joy that you're having this opportunity in life. Totally unplanned. Suddenly you have a tremendous opportunity to practice. This will be great. And enjoy, sit down, you do a really nice session, start it out right. And then start your normal plan the subsequent days. Let's practice a little bit. We have 6 people here. This is a record. So we all need to chill a little bit, right? Let's do a little shine, shamatha practice, focusing on the breath. A lot of you have checked in already, and I know you know how to do that. So does anybody need meditation instruction? Put it in the live chat. And let's get started then. Okay. So I see some. Hello, Tarpa children. Nice to meet you. So we've had some more people join the stream here, and I just want to be flexible and ask. Do you have any questions about retreat? I'm not a scholar, and my Tibetan is basic. Hi there, Tarpa. My Tibetan is very basic, so I'm not a literary expert, and I'm not a lot of things. But I am. I have done a lot of years in retreat. So if you come up with problems on retreat or anything like that, or if you'd like to coordinate something with me, any kind of help you need, I'm happy to be a resource. I wrote some notes for myself today. So I want to mention that when you go into a closed boundary retreat, and this, it's pretty close because we're kind of quarantined, right? Not exactly quarantined. It was nearly everybody, for example, in my 3-year retreat, and subsequently in myself and everybody else has anxiety about their health because a doctor isn't readily available, and something about the whole situation just creates a lot of stuff comes up where suddenly, the spot that's been here for 5 years is certainly cancer, and then more so now that it might come up for you more so since we're in an epidemic, that we have fears about our health. And so I'm just saying that straight up so you can introduce a sense of humor. Like when you start getting anxious obviously you're going to be anxious if you start running a fever. Of course you're going to be anxious. And you do what needs to be done. But you know what I mean? Every little thing is going to seem scary. And so by me saying that, it's a message to you. Remember me saying that. Don't worry. This is normal on a retreat. So it's okay. And most things you can deal with later, right? So anxiety comes up, superstitious fears come up, like, a picture of a deity falls down. I had this happen in my first retreat. I did maybe a week. Vajrakalaya is my first solo retreat at home many, many years ago, and a picture of my lama or something fell down, and I was sure it was some terrible sign I was doing something wrong, and so this idea of punishment and reward and all that is really useless. Don't think that way. Think positive. Think how wonderful it is that you met with the Dharma in this life, that you have faith and devotion, that you've encountered teachers of the Dharma. If not in real life, you can look all over YouTube and find them. Speaking of which, Organ Choang Rinpoche, is it the 20th? Robin Laurie, he's going to be doing something online with a protective visualization practice, mantra recitation practice for your health. And so you can sign up for that, for example. I mean, all the Dharma centers now are live streaming, are streaming, making videos and all this. So it's pretty miraculous. If we were born 50 years earlier as Americans, I don't know if you're American or not, but most of us are, that we would never have heard of the Dharma, right? Before there's a Geshe that came to the East Coast, a smattering of Zen teachers, Lama Gampo and Tartung Tuku on the West Coast, and that in the 60s, and that was it. 21st, okay, thanks, Rob. 21st at 1 p.m. California time. You go to the pristinemind.org website, and there's Organ Choang is going to rarely presents mantra and deity practices, but I think this is going to entail that, right? Kristen from, what's the name of that town out there? It begins with an M. I can't remember. Anyway, nice, wonderful. Um, so you need less calories than usual when you're in retreat. So tone it down on the carbs. These are really practical things. And make sure your area is free of distracting things. For example, I wouldn't do retreat with all these books exposed in my room. With your looking at the books, then you're going to get interested in the books. Put your devices in another room. Turn them off and put them away, block them for the period of time that you're practicing. Any questions about retreat? Nope. Okay, let's do a little bit of so I see a lot of Vajrayana practitioners here. It is really good to do a song, some chut if you know how, and Tara, Vajrakalaya. Lama Sonam was teaching. I see, Kristen, I think you were at probably at the Vajra Armor teachings, Lama Sonam. There you go. There's some. You all know this already. So let's just do some sending and taking practice, Tonglen. So we're gonna imagine, right now, well, the animals don't even know there's an epidemic. Right? Isn't that funny? This is really a phenomenon of the human realm. But you imagine first, your neighborhood, all the people whose lives have been turned upside down, old people who are frightened. Maybe they don't have a very big supply of food in the house. People who have symptoms and they don't know whether they have the illness or not. They're frightened. And then you go out to all of the state that you're in, the province, all the people worrying, angry maybe that their businesses have been shut down. They're probably going to go broke. The poor nonprofits, churches, and Dharma centers that get by month to month based on visitors coming to their center. What are they going to do? They aren't going to be bailed out. All the way out to the country and the world, and out into whatever kind of beings we haven't met yet in outer space. They're probably not upset over the same things, right? So then breathe in all the suffering. There's a dark, sooty, paranoid, kind of heavy quality. And breathe out open, light, spacious, comfortable. Okay. So if you're a deity practitioner of Tara or Rinpoche, for example, it makes you, it's it's an expansion of the Bodhisattva idea, right? And it makes you, it brings you into the role of being strong, being a great heroic protector of all living beings. It's good to have a job to do in troubled times, right? Because we're stronger because we know that fires happen. We know that even worlds come and go. We know that epidemics sweep through. It's part of the life of every sentient beings. So we're prepared. Any questions for about retreat? People may have come here with specific ideas, like how you do it. Make a list, just to review. Clean, prepare, think about what you want to do, think about how you want your sessions to do, and write it out. Figure out when you're going to do the things that go in between your sessions. And 4 sessions a day is really good. Make it a little shorter. The session time's a little shorter than you think that you can do. And then you can run over if you feel industrious. And it's a beautiful time to do those huge mantra accumulations, like if you're in our tradition, everybody does. Everybody tries to do 10 million Guru Rinpoche mantra recitations in their lifetime. And you use a very short nundro, or we have a little booklet here for people to accumulate with. Very short liturgy. And then throughout, you can walking around doing everything in your life, everything you're doing, you could reciting the Vajraguru mantra and counting it with that kind of accumulation where you have to do massive numbers. And this is a great time to do that. The mani, if you're in another, that's in this tradition or another tradition, it's more common. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. And it's a perfect time for doing those. I think that's all I have to say then. If you don't have any questions, I'm really buoyed by seeing all of you here and thinking that some of you may be doing partial retreat, increasing your practice, or doing a complete full-time retreat. For during this next 3 weeks, at least in the Bay Area, we know that we're sheltering in place, and probably, that may very well be extended. So I'm wonderful. I rejoice. It's great to see you all. If you need anything from me, if you have any suggestions about how I could be a support to you during this time online, I'd really be happy to hear about it. Hey, take care, everybody. I'm going to close it out.